David Goss, Tommy Scoops here on Soccer-Wise, and we are talking RSL. They've changed the name of the stadium, but I don't care. Here at the Riot, the battle hymns begun. We're here for RSL. It is one of my favorite things in Major League Soccer. It's one of my favorite atmospheres. I've probably only been 2 times maybe, but you got the mountain in the background. You got the fresh air in your lungs. It is, I think, one of the most market-relevant teams in Major League Soccer. You see stickers, you see flags, you see jerseys and scarves everywhere around Salt Lake when this team is on, and they have the new ownership. It sort of slipped for a little bit. It feels like they are back, but going into a year of uncertainty.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit of a transition, while also like the expectation should be high because there's a lot of quality in this team, and you kind of go back to their relevance in the market and how beautiful the stadium and the area around it is, just because Utah's a beautiful place. But particularly for guys coming abroad and even Americans who would joke, East Coast, West Coast bias about like, oh, Utah, whatever, right? The easy jokes to make. There are so many players who come to this team or they take their visit and go, oh my God, like, This is gorgeous. I love it here. Like Damir Kreilach is one that comes to mind. Like, He was like, yeah, honestly, I didn't know what to expect. It was a new place. I didn't know much about it. And he goes, I love it here. Like, all the guys who come here just love it. Like, hiking, outdoors, the community, everything else. So that's always a good one. And I'm sure the people of Utah are very proud when they can change misconceived notions of what it was going to be like. And I think that there's no stronger example than Real Salt Lake because of how many people are coming from abroad, because that's the nature of a soccer roster.
Yeah. The training facility, I think, might be the best in Major League Soccer. They have the indoor-outdoor fields. They have the USL Stadium there, and now the MLS Next Pro Stadium there, sitting right on the edge of the mountains. Like, I can't imagine a better place to go to work every day. And then you have that atmosphere. And, if you play well, fans will come. And the fans come, and they're loud, and they're rowdy, and there's a full culture that's been built there. And so I think it's one of those places where it feels meaningful to succeed. And when that happens, you get that connection, and you get the Tony Beltrons of the world who stay for their entire lives after that. And
he's like in the front office now.
It's not uncommon. Kyle Beckerman has stayed in the state as well. Like, these are people who are not from Utah, who probably, if they didn't go play there, would have never had a connection to the state, but they want to be there, and it's fully understandable. It's one of my favorites to go to. I had the best breakfast sandwich of my entire life in Salt Lake City last year when I was driving through on the way out, I believe, to California. And we're doing 30 season previews here at Soccer-Wise. Can I commit us to going on a trip to all 30 markets, or do I have to have some limit?
I would love to be able to go everywhere. Maybe not in this calendar year for all 30 stops, but I would like to hit all 30 stadiums with you, David Goss.
We should go to RSL. It is as fun as there is, I think, of an MLS game. So we're going to find a way to get there, maybe for some big moment. Maybe if they make it to a CCC final, because they are in the competition and they've got the opportunity. We chatted with Hayden and Maddie from the Royal Riot podcast. I love this show because they cover, as a platform, both MLS and NWSL, like we do here at Soccer-Wise. Also, because I think they're really well-grounded. When you listen to this show, it is one of the local market podcasts that has an understanding of the bigger league around it, and it's not just, why are we not getting every call? Why are we not winning everything? But also from someone from the outside, you get the passion, you get the energy, you get the frustrations, you get the excitement. It is going to be a weird start to the year, but yet RSL always has a way of holding the fort. Even when you think it's going to be a down year, it's a playoff team. Even when you think things are going to drop, they don't. And then the potential maybe to grow things even bigger than it's ever been before under new ownership. So let's go now to our season preview with the Royal Riot. All right, well, we continue on with our season previews here, Soccer-Wise, partnering with some of the best podcasts in Major League Soccer. And we are talking RSL. It means that we are joined by Hayden and Maddie of the Royal Riot podcast. You can get their show, of course, on their feed if you're listening to it right now. If you're listening to ours, go search the Royal Riot podcast. For anyone listening on Royal Riot, welcome to Soccer-Wise. You can search Soccer-Wise anywhere and come on the show as well. Guys, how you doing?
Doing fantastic. Thanks for having us.
Crushing it. Happy to be in a room with legends.
There are a lot of legends, and they're all in a basement right now. Hayden and Tom carrying that mantle for us. Tom is, of course, the king of it here at Soccer-Wise. We have a couple legends coming up in the show. Matt Doyle recorded his Doyleisms, is what I am calling them, They are the great thinkings of a great philosophical leader of our space in Major League Soccer. We also have our lines that we're going to finish on, our expectations that we're going to try and predict at the end of this segment that we got from a one Andrew Wiebe, because he said he had no haikus left in his soul. And so he went with the over-under line. Most American thing you can do is to move from poetry to a betting line at this point in time. Let's start with a little transfer update, and then we'll start talking about these teams led by Doyle. Tom, you like transfers. You're pretty big on them yourself.
Sure.
RSL had a big one. You actually broke this news live on our show, and it made me fall over and almost break my computer. The biggest story is Chicho Arango being traded for originally an RSL record transfer and traded for $1.4 million in general allocation money across 2 seasons, an international roster spot. And it's part of what has been pretty big exodus from this RSL team so far this offseason.
Yeah, that's going to be a difficult one to replace. Obviously, that was the big news. Elsewhere, Matty Crooks is gone. Gavin Beavers, a young, rising, talented goalkeeper, was sold to Brøndby in Denmark. Anderson Julio has left for FC Dallas. And that had been, most of those had happened before any incomings came. So the team was in flux for a little bit, but they moved throughout the winter. They've so far added Elias Manuel from the New York Red Bulls, Rafa Cabral from Brazil, a good new starting goalkeeper, which is why Gavin Beavers was allowed to leave, Sam Junkwa from Dallas, and then you have Kobe Henry on loan from Reims, Mason Stajuar, and Arieth Piol.
A lot of names to learn in all of that for RSL faithful. Hayden, give me an idea sort of what the offseason experience has been like for you and the RSL fan base.
Way busier than I think a lot of RSL fans thought it would be, in a lot different direction. I think if anybody thought that we were going to have outgoing players, it would be Beavers as one, but then Diego Luna. So I think a lot of RSL fans can be happy that we're keeping Diego Luna throughout this winter transfer window. But Chicho Arango, I think that you could kind of start to sense it. At least I feel like people kind of could. I know it caught a lot of people around the league off guard, but I think that a lot of people that were kind of pretty in tune with RSL around very end of December, beginning of January, sensed there was something going on there. So that it hurts to lose a guy that scored 17 goals last season. And we've replaced him with a committee, and we've heard the press conferences, and that's what they plan to replace that with, and we'll see if it works. I think that there's a couple guys that, Tom, that you said that I'm pretty excited about. Emmanuel being one of the bigger ones, 23 years old, 8 goals last year. I know that he was originally viewed as the Julio replacement. Now I think he's viewed as a little bit more than that. So overall, we're replacing 2 starters last year, so returning 9, and a lot of goals that we need to replace.
Maddie, one of the things we love to do on this show, we've got our depth charts, we've got our everything sort of labeled out, is to go through who the DPs and U22s are. And right now, RSL only has one on the books. Would you expect another big signing to come in?
So before I spoke to the front office today, I would have said no. Because usually RSL historically has done their big signings in the summer, not in the winter. Look at last summer, we got Gonçalves, Marchuk, and Lachlan Brook. I would think that in the summer they would be looking to replace Chicho. Now what I'm hearing today, not to take Bogart's feet, is that they're looking intra-league to replace that striker, and they're doing the GAM cash asset dance, trying to get somebody in before the window closes.
Tom, would you expect to see another name?
Yeah, so my understanding had been they would prefer to do it now. They didn't rule out the possibility of the summer, so I think that they were just kind of hedging it and not trying to overpromise. Again, maybe it still doesn't happen, but I do know that they are being active in trying to bring in another center forward, and look, within the league, I think is a strong option if you could find kind of the right player and such with the different mechanisms to bring in a player. And again, they just got 1.4 million GAM for Chicho Arango, so they have a little bit of a boost there. But again, if they wanted to make somebody a DP, they could use the cash transfer system, which doesn't take away any of their allocation money. So they have options, and I'm very curious to see where this goes and when this happens. I think more so because I think you can get by for more than stretches with, say, Elias Manuel and the attack by committee, as Maddie was saying, and Hayden was saying, sorry, probably. But the transfer window opens 24 games into the season, the summer transfer window. So I don't know if you want to rely on that for 24 games.
It is an early start to the season for RSL, as we found out a week or so ago. Every team can play in up to 2 competitions in the regional in cup competitions. And so for RSL, because of the quality of the season they had last year, CONCACAF Champions Cup is one of them. It kicks off the week before the MLS season. It is a matchup against Herediano with a chance to play the LA Galaxy in the next round, who got a first-round bye, and Galaxy team, of course, that will be without Ricky Puig, without Dejan Joveljic, we know now. It is not the worst matchup. Herediano, a tough one in the first round, but the opportunity there is a big one for this RSL squad, so that's something to look out for as well. Let's go into our Doyleism, and that'll give us a little bit of a jumping off point for a little bit more of this conversation.
Man, I really don't think this was the plan for RSL, because we all remember in June of last year, they were at or near the top of the Western Conference. They had an MVP candidate in Chicho Arango. They had a best 11 candidate in Andres Gomez. Both those guys are gone. And now, really quickly, this has become Diego Luna's team. And I kind of love that, because I love Diego Luna, and I want to see him hit another level. And I think he does have another level in him, maybe even like a best 11 caliber number 10. But we haven't seen this kind of pressure on a domestic attacker, honestly, in 20 years. The last time we saw this was when it was Landon Donovan's San Jose Earthquakes team. And like, that's quite a lot to bite off right there for any American kid, even one as talented as Diego Luna. But it's his team now. The pieces around him, the wingers, whether it's Marshuk or Brook, whether Luna's playing as a number 10 or Gonçalves is going to play on the left, and Luna plays on the left, and Gonçalves plays as sort of an attacking number 10. All that's kind of up in the air, and so is the number 9 position, because they traded Chicho. They have a DP slot open. They should have a lot of money to go in and address that. I know in Brooklyn coffee shops, they're kind of cheering for Elias Manuel to get a shot at being the starter. It's all up in the air. One thing we know, though, is that they will play hard under Pablo Mastroeni, but it's a less talented team than it was at this time last year.
All right, we hear the great words of Matt Doyle there, talking a lot about some of the stuff we mentioned. One of the big names he mentioned is Diego Luna, and that is going to be a large part of the conversation. Maddie, you were shaking your head yes and no throughout that time with Doyle talking. What is your reaction to his Diego Luna pressure, excitement, questions, whatever you'd call it, that came out from Doyle?
So I've been watching Luna since IMG Academy. Back when I lived in Florida, absolutely been waiting for him to get a shot at the 10 for it feels like my entire life. And I'm sorry to say, after the phone call earlier today, I'm going to have to keep waiting, because that is definitely going to be Gonçalves at the 10. Luna's going to be on the left. Right now, he's not playing physically. He's okay, but he had that broken nose with the men's national team, so they're not risking him at all. Right now, they've got Lachlan Brooks out there on the left.
That is going to be heartbreaking for Doyle, I think. And for a lot of us, Tom, Luna is, the expectation is that he could be a breakout star with this group. And he could be a breakout star, as Doyle said, like 4 all-American attacking players, the role he could play and the quality that he has. What do you make of what this season could be for him and the pressure on his shoulders?
Yeah, I look like, again, there will be several different outlets for creativity, for goals, for everything else. But at the end of the day, for me, the attacking burden is going to fall on Diego Luna, which is maybe a little bit unfair to him, given they brought in a designated player in Diego Gonçalves, and maybe he does take that. But for me, like, speaking to people and just looking at this, right, like, this is Diego Luna's team. Like, that's how they're being framed. That's how I think that, I know Diego looks at it that way, and like, not in a selfish way, but this is a confident kid. This is a responsible kid. This is a mature kid. He wants this. He loves the limelight. He loves the pressure. So I'm very much looking forward to it. I guess the only worry would be if he does too well, like Andres Gomez did, and then an offer that comes in the summer that you can't refuse. And then, again, it's a good problem to have, but again, it would be a problem. And it's difficult to balance that, the one end of, for the team, like this winter, not going to happen in terms of an outbound transfer after everything else that happened. It just is what it is. It would still be really tough for RSL to sanction a sale in the summer, but that would also be tough on Diego Luna if the right opportunity presents itself. We're getting ahead of ourselves. I can't wait to see him for at least the first 2/3 of the season.
Tom, why are you doing this to us? Why are you trying to break our hearts already? This was an Andres Gomez. Soccer Wise was founded as an Andres Gomez show. That was the purpose of Soccer Wise. And almost immediately we collapsed. We rebuilt ourselves as Diego Luna, Patrick Osherman show. And you've spent the whole week trying to ruin all of that for us.
I was going to say, I reported that there were multiple offers for Ajibang from the championship, so I'm sorry for the kiss of death here.
Man, Mauricio Pochettino just calling up January camp people and then sending him away. Hayden, you've gotten to watch Diego Luna up close, both as a player and a person. What's sort of the interaction with the fan base? What does he sort of represent to RSL?
I'm not the only one who says this. He is my favorite RSL player of all time. Bar none. Bar our five. We have a Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
He is my top RSL player of all time. Now, he won't ever break the top 5 RSL players simply because he won't be here long enough.
Yeah.
But he is my favorite player to ever put on the jersey. The way that he works. Like Utah, as you guys know, is a blue collar. If the players come in, put in work, we're going to love them. Even if they're not that great. There's a lot of players that are just, they work hard, but they're not the most talented, and we still love them. Diego Luna is exactly like that, except he's fantastic.
You're saying that to the three of us. These are 3 people who absolutely understand that I'm going to work hard, but I might not be the best. So you were hitting the right audience with that one.
Exactly. And Diego Luna, I mean, who the hell works at a coffee shop while on a first-team contract? Because he's worried that he's not a good communicator. He's been on Royal Riot 3 times, and every single time he talks about how he wants to get better with Pablo, how he wants to get better with his teammate, and how he wants to be a leader. I think that he has hit all 3 of those points. Our first time that we had him on the pod was before he started getting any starts. It was right after the U20 Olympic qualification, and that was almost 2 years ago now.
Right.
Was the first time we had him on. He wasn't playing at all, and we asked him about it. We said, hey, you're not getting minutes. We want you to get minutes. What's going on? He had nothing for us. He said all he needs to do is just work hard and practice, and then as soon as he started getting minutes, breakout player. Ended the season with, I think, 8 goals in half a season that year. Mm-hmm. So Diego Luna is, I mean, Tom, yeah, you're breaking our hearts already saying, let's wait until summer. We know, but we're not going to accept it until it happens.
I was saying, Maddie, so like we're talking about all of the things that Diego Luna does. What have you noticed the biggest change, I guess, under Pablo Mastroeni and being at this club from, again, a super talented, super creative, super unique, individualistic player who also works for a team? How has he changed under Pablo Mastroeni?
So 2 main things. Number 1 is defense. He wasn't getting the minutes at first because he was I don't want to say Jack McGlynnish or Gio Reyna-ish in his attention to defense, but felt like since he could beat everybody at USL with speed and guile, that would work at MLS. And it took a while for Pablo to get through to him. You need to play defense here if you want to play. And I think what he finally said was, hey, you want to go to Europe, right? Do you think when you get there, some European coach is going to say, oh, well, let me build my team around this 20-year-old American? Or are you going to need to fit into their system? And he said he saw the light go on in Diego's eyes. And Diego bought into the system. He is a defensive asset because he knows that by playing defense and getting the ball back, it's going to create opportunity for him. So he's still very attack-minded, but he understands the role that defense has to play. But he's also become an incredibly well-rounded, and Tom, you said a mature man. And I'm not calling him a boy anymore. He started going through some issues and went to a mental health counselor. And you saw it last year in Chicago. He had been on a bit of a dip where like the ball wasn't going in for him. And Pablo took him out of the starting lineup to kind of remove the pressure. RSL went on the road to Chicago and he scored the 4th goal. And the relief on his face and tears on his face as he ran over to Pablo to hug him. And that's when the season really took off for him. But when you talk about a mature person, the last time the 3 of us were together was at that pre-party for MLS Cup at the studio where they shot all those breaking aways for MLS. Every one of those guys came over to me when they found out that there was an RSL guy in the room and told me how much they loved working with Luna, how incredible Luna was. They told me things about him that I didn't know. And then you could see them all like 3 minutes into their gushing about Luna say, oh yeah, we like Chicho too. But then they would go back like, oh yeah, we had another RSL guy. Go back to telling me like how much they enjoyed working with everybody, but Luna, what an incredible person. And if you remember when he got left off the Olympic roster, a lot of talking heads were pretty brutal to him, possibly none more so than Herculez Gomez, who called him selfish, hurt that he didn't go because he had hurt feelings, called him all sorts of names, cast all sorts of aspersions. Guess whose podcast Luna went on last week?
Hercs.
I mean, this guy bears no grudges. He sees through the matrix, and he is just such a well-rounded, likable kid. You can't help but want him to succeed, and I just know he's going to.
He's one of the stories of the year, I think, for everyone who likes this league. Coming out of the January camp, I think he's going to be one of the stories of the national team, and the stuff Tom does, unfortunately, he's going to be one of those stories as well. We're going to try and keep him away from it as much as we can. But let's talk about this team overall, because we've talked about the attack a lot. With Chicho gone, that's a huge question mark. The question mark is not defensively, though. The numbers were there defensively last year. I think, in my mind, Justin Glad's come back to the player that I thought he would be. And maybe he's not the Man U starter that some people talked about, although maybe that's a good thing for the way Man U plays right now. But he is a top-level MLS center back. You bring in a new starting goalkeeper as well. Hayden, what's the expectation for this team? What is this strength defensively for this group? And I guess the question is, how high can it take it over the course of this season?
Yeah, so Maddie's the goalkeeper expert. So, Maddie, correct me if I'm wrong, but switching between goalkeepers 15 times last season doesn't help a defensive line have any chemistry. And I think we saw a lot of mistakes that were really dumb. So I think Brian Vera, Glad, Katranis is one of the most underrated players in this league. You don't talk about him. And that's a great thing, in my opinion, when you're not talking about a left back. Like, that's not a super attack-minded left back because he's not making very many mistakes. And then we got the right back where there's a competition going on. You got Brown, you got PQ, you got, our new signing, Kobe Henry could perform along that back line. So I think the defense will be much more improved this season. Especially with, again, it's just another year of Vera and Glad getting those minutes together. Vera, I think, is a very easy to dislike player for a lot of people because he's had his moments. But Vera and Glad, I think, are becoming one of the better partnerships in the league.
And just to add here, Real Salt Lake were 5th in MLS in expected goals against last season. And as you said, their biggest weakness was goalkeeping. And that's particularly the one that upsets the XG. It's special center forwards and bad goalkeeping. If they have indeed fixed their goalkeeper spot with Cabral, which I believe that they have, they'll at least improve. If he is even league average, I think that saves you a handful of goals just right there.
Matt, you want to weigh in on the goalkeeping expert of having a good starting goalkeeper being a positive?
I mean, I've always said since Ramondo left, what I've wanted is a goalie who's going to make the saves he's supposed to make, and then a goalie who will sometimes make saves that he shouldn't make. And unfortunately, I don't know that we've consistently seen that goalie who's going to save the ones he should make. Taking nothing away from McMath last year, if you want to watch a Superman in goal, go back and watch our last 2 games against Minnesota. McMath absolutely stood on his head. But from what I'm hearing, Cabral's a significant upgrade as far as playing the ball with his feet, which
Brazilian has to be.
Brazilian, but also McMath, like me, is old. Like that, I just made him my age. We didn't learn how to play with the ball at our feet.
Yeah.
Their coach didn't want to see that. And guys like me are the reason that the coach didn't want to see that. I was height, width, and distance. I don't care who's open.
I will say, I think credit to RSL for the way they've handled Beavers, and I think they gave him opportunities where they believed he could fill it.
Yeah.
And it went up and down. So to handle it this way now, to send him to a good landing spot while bringing in a veteran to win now, it's the right way a club should operate. And so I think there's credit there. I'm hopeful about some of the other homegrowns that have been signed. RSL has a tendency to throw 7 press releases in a row at you and be like, yeah, homegrowns are great, and then move on. I do think, and Giovia, obviously a big one of them, but I do think there's some really interesting names that can be involved with this group and hopefully get opportunities this year or start to push into the first team. I think Real Monarchs are one of the teams that are in U.S. Open Cup as well.
Yeah.
So there's some minutes to get there on top of all of the games that RSL is going to be playing across CONCACAF, Leagues Cup, and then MLS competition as well. This brings us to our final piece here. Our final prediction. Andrew Weavy has sent us some predictions as well. We've got 2 for RSL. They are both attack-minded because we just talked about RSL, good defensively, looking to be great defensively. So all anyone wants to talk about is the other side of the field and what could happen there. He starts with this one. 9.5 is the line over-under for Elias Manuel goals this season in MLS play. Tom, I'll start with you because I can see you already getting a little scratch on the side as you hear the over-unders. What do you make of that line?
I'm sad to say I got to go under. I love Elias Manuel. I just think that they're going to bring in another center forward, and the minutes will be difficult to come by if that other center forward is working out. Like, Manuel will fight to be in a lot of... I'm sure that he's going to play a ton of games, but I think more of them will come off the bench, so have to go under.
Maddie?
I have to go under for the same reason. I think he's going to be a great player, but I think he's going to be more like our Julio, where he's going to be coming off the bench. From what I'm hearing in camp, if the season started tomorrow, it would be Forster Ariago starting at the 9, who's a guy that we got from the re-entry draft from Nashville.
Yeah.
And they say he's just a big, physically imposing number 9 that we haven't seen in a long, long time. He sees the game and he combines real well, like they're sharing a wavelength, he and Diogo Gonçalves, but also that he can put in a headed cross. So if it starts tomorrow, it's him. So I got to go with him getting the 9.
He is literally the Ghanaian Brian White, so which makes him the Ghanaian New Jersey Mario Gomez, which is one step removed from being a Bundesliga starter. So there's a lot to be excited about.
Or a Red Bull head of sport.
Yeah, true. Maybe they'll be able to pick up a trade there as well. A Duke grad himself. That's why I said it. And then I spent most of his time with Huntsville, a little bit with Nashville over the course of his young MLS career. For Ayago. Hayden, we've got 2 unders. Are you riding with the group?
Yeah, I am. I do think under on this one. Like everyone said, he's not the starter on this team. I think he's going to get a little bit more minutes maybe than predicted, but I think that they want this guy off the bench. I think they want Julio 2.0.
Yeah. I'm going to go with all of you as well and go under. I think Weeby came in hot thinking this is the starter from day one, and that's the question mark. And I think everyone here sort of coming to the same area that it's not. Let's do this one, though. Maddie, I want to start with you because of what you talked about as we came out at the beginning about the number 10 opportunity. Who will have more goals plus assists combined in this season, Gonçalves or Luna?
Luna. Luna broke out last year. This year, he's going to turn the league on his head. I'm predicting a lot more goals from him. I'd put his number at 13, and honestly, I'd take the over.
Okay.
That is a nice little. Let me set myself up with a layup on the 13. 13 would not be where that line is set. I agree firmly that it's Diego Luna. Again, I'm more worried
this is
about
goals plus assists. Remind me.
Yeah, Maddie, right?
Oh, I'm just doing goals.
Holy shit!
I'm saying he's 13 goals, brother.
Wow. All right, I take back my joke because
So
that's
what are you
actually a
gonna
bold
say,
take.
8
That's a
assists?
bold.
Maddie?
I mean, he's definitely going to be over 20 for combined.
I see
20
him
this
as he's a double threat. And,
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll be exactly 10 goals and 10 plus assists, but the goal contributions I'd definitely put north of 20. So I'm with that. I'm there.
Hayden, is there any Gonçalves excitement?
Yeah, this is actually my hot take. I think Gonçalves is going to be. I think he's going to beat out Luna on that one. This is my biggest one where I say if RSL is going to be a top 4 to 5 team, it all rests on Diogo and Dominic. Dominic, I think, is going to be a player that we do not keep past the summer. So you guys, I think, start talking about him now. I think he's going to absolutely pop off. He's gone. I think he's going to go crazy. And I'm taking Diogo over Diego 4 goals plus assists.
I'm just going to jump in, Hayden. I'm so glad that you brought up Marchuk because I was going to say before we close that this is a player that I'm remiss for not having spoken about yet in this podcast, in this preview. I think he's going to be phenomenal. He debuted with the Polish national team after getting to RSL. Yeah, and he was somebody that it was like, yeah, he'll be, again, like Gomez, who knows like how he'll be exactly immediately. you know how hard it is for a player to come in mid-season, and like particularly a player as young as him? The whole conversation was Gonçalves, everything about him, he seems like he could come in immediately in the summer and hit. It wasn't him. He needed more time. It was Dominic Marchuk. So I'm very glad that you brought him up, Hayden, because I think he's an excellent player.
We've talked about it on our show a bunch. Marchuk, he's a straight line runner, and therefore, at a minimum, he's always affecting the game because he's physical, he's athletic, he's working hard. But now I think this year we're going to see some of the quality. And when he stops going at one speed and starts to pull people in and beat players and all of that, I think he can be really special. I'm going to go with Luna on this one as well, just because I can't go away from my guy, Diego Luna. This was a blast. Thank you all for getting together to do this. We got to do it again. I cannot wait for the season. Hayden, give us a pitch on Royal Riot before we get out of here.
Yeah, Royal Riot. Anywhere you want to get your RSL news, your Royals news, we are the only Royals podcast that exists. Actually, that's not true. There is one other one. They just don't post as much anymore. But we are the only other one that goes weekly. So make sure to give us a look for Royals content and RSL content.
And we at SoccerWise, the same. We cover MLS and NWSL. So if you are looking for a place that covers both leagues like Royal Riot does, we do the same. So we love having other people that are, operating like us. We have live shows every single week, a couple times a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we're doing a bunch of other content as well as our season preview. So if you're listening on Royal Riot, come check us out. If you're listening on SoccerWise, you want to learn more about RSL or the Utah Royals, go the other way. All right, thank you guys for joining us once again, and everyone else, we'll talk to you all very, very soon.
Peace out.